The question that you fed it, and I'll read the question here because just so we all have an idea of what it is. You asked it, how would you suggest that students are prevented from using ChatGPT from cheating in online university exams? Which is a brilliant question to ask it. And essentially, it provided four approaches to take. The first one being plagiarism detection software, the second one being machine learning algorithms and natural language processing algorithms to detect suspicious answers. Third, it offered educating students about the ethical problems of using AI to generate answers, which I think is fascinating. And then finally, it said we can use AI to better secure the exam platforms. Now, in your article, though, you seemed to me to be quite skeptical of implementing these answers. And some of them we might have touched upon a little bit. But if you don't mind, I'd actually like to approach these a little more specifically because I think these are probably concerns that your average person has as well, or might have thought of. Certainly, your average teacher will have come across many of these already. So, what are some of the potential problems that you found in terms of using plagiarism detection software?
So first of all, issue with plagiarism is that plagiarism will be detected obviously if the text strongly resembles another text that is found within a database of Turnitin, let's say. The thing with ChatGPT is that it's able to generate, not able to, it does generate different responses based on the same inputs. So you can ask it the same question and it will give you a different answer each time you ask it. So that means plagiarism cannot be detected. Now, of course, the answers will have some overlaps, but the answers will be expressed differently. So it won't necessarily be completely picked up as plagiarism. So that's the first issue. The second one is being able to detect whether or not the text has been generated by AI or not. It's a reasonable suggestion, but it's actually unworkable. It's very easy to bypass it. So, for example, people are saying, "Oh, it's possible now to embed a watermark within AI generated text, and this watermark can be picked up." So, what is this watermark? This watermark is essentially a statistical number. It's a probability. It's a probability that a sequence of words that the AI agent has generated are plausible. That means that those are the most likeliest words to be generated by AI based on everything that it's learned. Now, it's very easy to break this. It's very easy to even get ChatGPT to generate text that won't be picked up by AI text detectors. So I did a little bit of an experiment, and there are two there are two parameters within language models that you can tweak. One is called perplexity. What perplexity measures is how rare a word is. So if you ask ChatGPT, generate a piece of text that has a high level of perplexity, that means when it's generating words, it will choose words that are rare. And then the other parameter that you can ask it to do is burstiness. So that means if it's set a very high level, that means that it's going to select lots of rare words in a short space of time. So if you have a text that uses rare words and they're quite closely put together, then this text is not going to be detected as an AI generated text. And I can give you an example if you like. I've prepared a little snippet of code that I've asked ChatGPT to generate based on its default setting, as well as based on high levels of burstiness and high levels of perplexity. So here's an example. I asked ChatGPT, write a brief paragraph on the keto diet. And it says, this is its default setting. The ketogenic diet, commonly known as the keto diet, is a low carbohydrate, high fat diet that aims to promote weight loss and improve overall health. The idea behind the diet is to reduce carbohydrate intake to a minimal level, causing the body to shift its primary energy source from glucose to ketones produced from fat. The shift into metabolic state called ketosis is believed to result in weight loss, improved insulin sensitivity, and reduced inflammation. Fantastically written. But if you take that text and you put it into an AI detector, this comes up as 97% AI generated. So I asked it next, rewrite this text with a highest level of perplexity and burstiness, which is a great word. And this is what it said. The ketogenic regimen, frequently referred to as the keto diet, is a dietary approach characterized by restriction of carbohydrates and an emphasis on fat consumption, with the purpose of catalyzing weight reduction and enhancing general well-being. The philosophy of the diet entails a drastic reduction of carbohydrate intake, which in turn instigates the body's energy system to transition from glucose reliance to ketones generated from fats, and goes on like this. Now, I copied this text and put it into a detector, and it came up as 99% human. So we've broken the watermark, and ChatGPT
Yeah.
broke the watermark uh, itself as well. But there are also other tools like Quillbot where you can take text such as this. You can paste it in there and you ask it to rehash the text a little bit, and it will come back with almost perfect percentage mark of human generated text as well. So this is why this strategy doesn't actually work.
Yeah, and just to add on to that too, right? We have to be careful. We started having this conversation as well a couple of weeks ago in terms of our writing program, trying to figure out a way that we want to approach this. And some of the initial conversations we had, some of us were trying to say, listen, don't fall in love with just Chat GPT. Because the truth is, you have to think about the technology itself, not just the name, right? Because the technology, in some senses, kind of always going to be around now, and it's been around in the past. It just maybe not to this level, and so it's not something I think that we can necessarily control as much as we have to think about it. Kind of going back to the beginning of this conversation, trying to think about it as a tool. How can we use it with us in some sense? And that maybe we'll jump down because with that second problem that I mentioned about machine learning algorithms, you kind of answered both of those in that response. Um, so let me ask you about that third one then, educating students about the ethical problems of using AI. Have you thought really carefully or given that suggestion much thought since your study?
A little bit. I felt as though that my literature review kind of answered that question in actual fact. We've got studies that have investigated using honor codes, using education as a tool to dissuade students from cheating. And it hasn't worked. It hasn't shifted the needle one ounce. And this is a strategy that I'm hearing from the administrators at my end as well, that we simply need to educate the students better about cheating. And I'm not convinced. I don't think education is going to change things at all. I think it comes down to character. It comes down to virtue. What are you aiming for as a person? I don't think any amount of education is about how bad cheating is going to change things. Um, if a student believes that the goal is just to get ahead, just to get the best mark possible, make the greatest short-term gains as possible, it doesn't matter what you tell them about cheating, is not going to change things at all. So I'm skeptical.
Yeah, I can't blame you, because In some sense, you can try to say, well, maybe we should be strengthening philosophy, right? Philosophy departments, and maybe thinking about having more discussions in philosophy about the ethics of technology moving forward. But that being said, I think you're right. I'm not so sure that in the moment, that philosophy is going to be the thing that comes to their minds. In my classroom, we what I try to instill within them is that the one thing that they have, these students, each one, is that they are unique to this world. They're unique to it, which means that their choices that they make, what they decide that they're going to put out into the world, in some sense, really is connected to them. And so the question for my students always is that what you want to be connected to you? Do you want that text that was produced by ChatGPT to be the thing that represents who you are? Now, I don't know if that makes a dent, if it makes a difference, but I know at least at the beginning of the semester, when I have some students who are always worried about, oh, you're going to try to make us all into like 20 versions of you. But I always tell them the world does not need 20 more versions of me. It needs one of me and one of each of you. And I try to sell them truly on that idea that you are unique. You only have so much time here, like anyone else. And so you've got to think about what you put out into that world. And that includes on your social media, by the way, the same thing. And so it might be that at some point we could get to a place where they look at this and say, well, I would rather represent myself than to have, AI represent me. But like you, I'm skeptical of in that moment when they're anxious and they're worried about this and that. It's so easy to put the text or the questions in ChatGPT and it just produces such beautiful text. It really does. I'm not so sure that you know educating students on the ethical problems, of which by the way they know. Let's not pretend to like they don't know what cheating is. They know what it is.
Of course they do.
So I was like you, a little bit skeptical of that. I kind of laughed a little bit when I saw that response that was generated about educating the students. Um, so then how about that the last one, which you kind of touched upon as well? Is there a space for asking ChatGPT, okay, how would you secure these exam platforms?
I don't think ChatGPT would have a solution for this, apart from a generic answer, use AI. Well, what does a solution like that actually look like? Um, I don't think that there's anything out there at the moment unless somebody invents it. So I don't think it can actually help us. I think it just kind of threw that out there to fill in the gap, but I don't think it's an intelligent, suggestion, to be honest with you. Um, Look, one thing I kind of wanted to circle back to and return to what you were saying about education and teaching ethics, which I think is fantastic. I would love to hear how that works out with your class. But one thing that I was a little bit, I guess, disappointed about is hearing it at our end, some of the conversations around how we respond to this new threat to the integrity of exams is it was kind of thrown back at us as academics. We were kind of challenged to ask ourselves, how are we contributing to the cheating? And I wasn't all that pleased with that line of thinking because it seemed to be quite prevalent amongst the group in terms of um, how are we responsible for the actions that the students are taking, which are unethical. And so I think as long as this kind of an attitude is the prevailing attitude, I don't see us coming up with solutions that actually work
Hmm.
because I'm not too sure how we can act differently in order to um, change the behavior of the students if they're dead set on cheating. Well, doesn't matter how good my content is, doesn't matter how inspiring the lectures are, um, doesn't matter how much you prepare the students for the exam. If they're intent on cheating, they will. So that was the other issue that I found a little bit uncomfortable, but I think we're all going to be facing this same issue around the world in different institutions.